Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video guide. Today we're going to be looking at a PvP build, 2-gate robo proxy, which I've been using for a while. We've seen some people use it in WCS, and I'm just going to give you guys the build order, and then we'll have 2 replays, which I played, and we can look at the different situations and how to execute the build, which I think are the 2 most common situations to play against. So we start very standard with 14 pylon, 16 gate, 17 gas, 18 gas, and then you just get your standard 19 second gateway. You chrono boost twice on your probes, and you rally probes into gas. Make sure that you always have 16 probes on your minerals. Get your cybercore the moment your first gate finishes, and you scout either after second gas or after second gate. You can decide on that. Depending where you want to proxy. Now, on deciding where you want to proxy, what you want to do is you want to put a location which is difficult to find. So this can be a good location, this could be a good location, here, 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 perhaps here, perhaps here, perhaps here, perhaps here, here. There's like, on every map there's going to be like 9 to 10 locations which are good enough to put a proxy robo. You don't want it too close. The location where I put it this game is rather close, but I'm playing against an AI, so it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, usually put it a little far away. You don't need to be super close, but you don't want it to be too far either. So just find yourself a location which you like. Send your probe there, and your second pylon, after your cybercore, will be proxied. Now, you want to build this pylon before your cybercore reaches 18 out of 36. Because a pylon takes 18 seconds and a cybercore takes 36 seconds. So if you build it before halfway, you will be able to throw down your tech as soon as this pylon finishes, as well as start your first 2 adepts, which we will need. So after we build the pylon, we create 1 more probe. And then once our cybercore finishes, at the same time our pylon finishes, we start with 2 adepts. You fake building this probe. You don't have to, but you can. And then once you want to build the robo, sometimes you cancel it, sometimes you cancel it later. Now, so you start with adept, robotics facility, and warp gate. You stay on 27 out of 31, and then you build your pylon immediately. Now, with this probe, you can decide to scout. Maybe you want to scout if there's a fast target. You want to count the amount of pylons that your opponent protoss has. And from there on out, maybe react in a different way. I'll show you guys later in the games that I played how exactly to react. For now, this is just the build order. After we get our 2 adepts, we get 2 stalkers. No more probes, by the way. We keep this probe count, so total 23 probes. 16 on minerals, 3 in each gas, and 1 scouting probe. You can lose that, not that big of a deal. Once our robotics facility finishes, we chrono boost an immortal. Once these 2 stalkers finish, we get 1 stalker, a pylon, and then we get another stalker. So we'll go up to 6 units before our warp gate finishes. Now this should basically work out perfectly. You see our pylon finishes as our immortal finishes, and we can start our prism almost immediately. We should have a chrono boost for that as well. We chrono boost the prism, and we just push out with this army, and we see if there's some kind of expand, and we try to do some damage. Afterwards, of course, after the prism, we continue with immortal production, and we can warp in 2 sentries once our warp gate finishes. But this is just the basics of the build. So I will put this replay in the description as well, so you can get the build order very easily, and if you don't quite hit this timing, you can check what you're doing wrong. Alright, let's go into more specifics on situations. I have 2 games, one against Skilles, who's a fantastic Russian player, and one against Gong Fu Banda, who I hope most of you know. It's one of a rather good protoss player as well. Let's start with that game. So, I'm the blue player here. Gate, assimilator, assimilator. Second gate. Here I scout after second gas. And just check which location I find. This isn't very close, but it's rather close to his natural and not super easy to find. Most of the time protoss will scout here, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, maybe up here, but this location is difficult to scout. You could also build it here. You could also build it here, or put a pylon here, then a robo here. Like, there's lots of things you can do. Of course, you can also just put it here. Like I said, very, very many different variations. Well, I'm not going to focus too much on the build, as I did it in the first replay already. So I'm going to assume you guys know the build order, and we're just going to see how to respond to certain situations. Now, what I did was, after I built my robotics facility, I went straight into his main base with my probe. And you see I have about 10 seconds to scout everything, because usually the units come out around 2:30. So if they make a sentry first, perhaps a little earlier, but 2:30, 2:29, something like this, the first 2 units should finish. Now we get the scout and we see a Stargate. What we actually want to do here is count pylons. We want to see 3. Or maybe 1, 2, and 1 down here. And we want to see if there's a fast target. If there's a fast target, the only change we make is that we get a fast battery in our mineral line as well. Everything else is exactly the same. So you have to delay your 5th and 6th stalker most likely a little bit. Because his Stargate is so fast. This could be an Oracle, in this case it isn't, but he could be here at around 3:40. So you want to get a battery just in case. You know, always play it safe. So here we move out with our Immortal. Because of the battery, my pylon is a little bit delayed and I can't really afford my warp prison, but it's okay. We see nothing over here. So from this point on, my goal is basically to contain him with sentries, a prism, maybe an observer, and then expand myself. That's going to be my goal. So we just walk around. We don't ever want to overcommit until we have our prism. From that point on, we can save our Immortal rather easily, but without it, it's pretty difficult. So here comes our 3rd stalker, here our 4th, and here's our first warp in, and we have our prism. We start an observer after because we saw a Stargate. If we know he has a robo, we just continue building Immortals. Most of the time, you don't want an observer, just constant Immortal production. And here we build the Nexus. We realize, okay, we have to contain and we don't need to engage up this ramp. It's completely unnecessary to do that. So what you do from here is you just keep warping in more sentries. Perhaps you want to kill these gates, or if there's a pylon on the side, like I could have killed this pylon. I wasn't aware it was there, so a little risky. Also because he can go down the ramp in that case. But these buildings, at least you can usually at least kill 1 gate from the low ground. Especially once you have the observer, put it on, what is it called? Observer mode. And then just kill the gate. If any of your units gets force fielded in, just pick it up with the prism. And you should be fine. Just get 3-4 sentries. Start pro production at home. Maybe get a 3rd gate. Just contain him and you should be fine. We're just gonna skip through this replay a little bit. Because for me, in my head, this game is already over. This is a very good situation. The only way he can win is if he lifts all my sentries before I can force field the ramp. He runs down and kills me. Or if he somehow gets like 2 adepts in my main base. So always be a little careful of that as well, of course. Another thing that you might want to do is always have a strategic recall available. So you never want to chrono boost too hard. So when you want to, you can just put a force field on the ramp and recall home. You can do that, for example, once your Nexus finishes and you're like, all right, I'm happy with my lead. I don't need a bigger lead, I think. I already have an extra base. Let's just go home and play it while we're up a base. So yeah, that's not what I'll do this game. This game I was relatively confident because I saw everything he had and I was like, all right, there's no way he's ever gonna break out. So I'm even gonna kill the 2nd gateway once I saw his phoenixes move out. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can start creating some probes. Now that I saw his phoenix on my side of the map, I went up. This is a little risky. Perhaps it's better to just recall home and deal with this and just chrono boost your probes like a madman. But this felt like an okay trade for me as well. So, I mean, it was a little risky. And if you're not too confident in your micro, perhaps don't play it like this. But yeah, I think in general it was fine. Instead, I recall home now. I start chrono boosting my probes. I have the 3rd gate. I start my Twilight just for blink. Keep your observer on his side of the map. So you keep an eye on the Nexus. And as long as you don't see a Nexus, just keep adding more batteries, more sentries, and more probes. Eventually get your blink, more units, and you should be 100% fine against this. The game goes on for 3 more minutes, but it's honestly the easiest hold of my life, and I don't want to waste your time. So let's head over to the next replay, which is my final replay. And I think the next replay really is a scenario which you will encounter a lot. This was my game against Skilles, where he decides to defend after opening Sentry Stalker with some kind of robotics defense. So he tries to get immortals himself, get batteries, but it's extremely difficult to defend that, especially if the if the robo is a little close. So let's have a look at exactly he tries to do it and how we fight against it. So in this case, if they don't cancel the Nexus, the least you need to do is kill this Nexus. You don't need to go up the ramp, but you do need to kill this Nexus. You can never let this Nexus survive. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So this time we actually proxy rather far. Well, it looks far, right? It's on my side of the map, but it's actually not that far of a wall. It takes 15 seconds maybe for an immortal. That's completely okay. And he's scouting with his probes, like, where is this guy hiding? He's scouting everything. Maybe it's a proxy Stargate. He still has no clue. This is very important to realize as well, is that your opponent has absolutely no clue as to what you're doing. There could be a Stargate here. There could be DTs over here. There could be DTs over here. You could even have a proxy Nexus. That makes no sense. It could just be a proxy pylon. There could be nothing else proxied. You just don't know what it is. So this is something you really have to just keep in mind. Because it actually is rather important that you have this big advantage of hidden information, which is why the proxy is so good. Now, here we go. Adept, Stalker, Stalker. We start our Immortal. And he scouts at around 3, of course. Now, I got in with the Adepts. You always try to get in, try to scout, but if that doesn't happen, it's no big issue. For the sake of this game, I just canceled it. Usually what you do is you try to go for 4 or 5 probe kills. I think that's good. If you can get probe kills, of course, that's brilliant. You want to get that. If it's 4 Stalkers, perhaps not. Against 3 Stalkers, I think you get at least 3 probes, which I think is really quite good at the start. So usually you do want to go for that. But for the sake of the game, I didn't let it finish. However, after seeing Sentry and 3 Stalkers, I did know I didn't have to build a battery, so my build was going to be rather tight. Didn't really feel like building a battery after seeing this. There's no need. It's not necessary. So he builds a pylon on the high ground. He's extremely scared because he's like, hey, what's happening here, you know? Is there going to be... Hello? Alright. Is there going to be an Oracle into my... in my main mineral line? So you see, he really is quite afraid. Meanwhile, I'm just walking across the map with my Immortal, having a blast. His Robo started now, and I go in one more time. I don't see that he has a Robo, but I see he has a lot of sentries. So right now I'm feeling like I'm in a great spot. I just want to damage this, and maybe I want to force a little bit of fight. Maybe make him waste his force fields. I don't want to lose my Immortal, so I should not move into this. This is really important. This small move forward actually was a mistake, because my real strength comes when I have my Prism and my 2 sentries as well. Now, in this scenario, the 3 gate actually is superior to the 2 gate. You have 1 extra unit, which you can warp in, and that sounds small, but it actually is rather big. So that's something you got to keep in mind. But this is one of the only scenarios where I think the 3rd gate is actually worth it. Here comes the Prism. I warp in 2 units. I immediately start my 2nd Immortal as well, as if you see a Nexus and a lot of sentries, usually you just want to keep Immortal production going. So chrono boost it when you can, and just keep pushing hard. So here we go. Make sure your force field is good. You only have 1 at this point, so you better make it worth it. Now, let me tell you, what I just did, this force field is not a force field that is worth it. This is the absolutely worst force field I've seen in my life. It would be better to put it here, which you can block this area with a single force field. It would be better basically to put it anywhere. I could even force field the ramp if I want to. This was an absolutely terrible force field. I'm a little ashamed I did that. Don't do that. What you want to do is you just want to damage the Nexus, never engage into him and his batteries. Wait till he can get more sentries, and once he has his first Immortal out, you just go back for a little and you wait for your own for your second immortal. So once again, you have the immortal lead. Now, this fight was very good. I got my 2 extra sentries, got some nice force fields. Now I killed his Nexus. So most of the time what happens here is they come down with the immortal and they need to win this fight because they need to kill you and then push you back, because otherwise they will lose their ramp. And once you have their ramp, you basically have the game. You can get your own Nexus again. You just keep adding more and more immortals and you can start taking down this gate, this pylon, these 2 batteries perhaps, and he's in a lot of trouble. So it is very important that you don't lose this fight. Now, I felt relatively comfortable because I had so many units. However, I think I do move back a little bit and wait for my second immortal. Please tell me. Okay, well, I should have kept building immortals during this. This is a little ambitious. Should have just kept building immortals, and then once I have his ramp 100%, that's when I should take my Nexus. But I mean, it's good enough. We're so far ahead that these kind of small mistakes didn't really matter. I cashed this part of his army, and now once again, now that we take his low ground, we just chill over here. Maybe it's a good time for an observer after this as well, Kevin. Another nice thing, if you get a lot of sentries, you can use hallucination to scout. So you can see if he gets a Robo Bay or a Stargate. Some people even try to get DTs, try to do some kind of run by. But he just goes for Disruptor, which is a rather common response. So be careful of that. I just keep chronoing out immortals. I'm adding more probes, getting my natural up and running, and I mean, at this point I feel like I can basically walk up and kill him, but I'm playing it safe. I'm just chilling, killing his gateways. I mean, I'm up a base. The pressure's on him, not on me. I did scout. No, I didn't scout yet, so I think I'll do that now. I'll send a hallucination around, make sure that I know what's coming. I see the Robo Bay, either for a Colossus or a Disruptor, most likely a Disruptor. So I start pre-splitting already, and at this point I'm like, alright, time to kill you. I move up and just own him. Otherwise, if there's one Disruptor, what you can also do is get a Stargate to get Phoenixes to lift the Disruptor. Or you can just trust on your micro. Just get like 5 gates and blink maybe, or 3 or 4 gates and blink, and use your prism as well to micro your immortal. So yeah, this is my guide about the 2-gate Robo Proxy in PvP. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments and I'll read them. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and see you next week for another build order guide with me, Harstem.